All right, welcome back. Chris Bolschweiler here with what I hope and believe should be the last and final submission that I have to go over. And this is going to be a re-submission of CSS3 transitions. I was encouraged to find a more practical real-world situation for how you would use or demonstrate a transition in CSS, and I hope that this example will cover that. So I'm not going to go over too much detail. We're just going to build off of what we have practiced with in the past. So I'm going to go ahead and simply pull this up so we can take a look at it. So this is the new one that I've come up with. It's relatively simple and it's not quite as lengthy as the other ones. So if we take a look at my index file here, there is absolutely no JavaScript whatsoever that is going to be helping me with these transitions. I have my everyday use style that controls my font, backgrounds, and such, so we won't need to pay attention to that. So let's go ahead and dig into this and see what we've got. First, I have demonstrated a rotation transition, and I have a translate. I want to go over the translate first because I want to spend the most time on the rotation. So my translate, let's go ahead and take a look at that in action. Pretty self-explanatory on a mouse over function. You can see what happens here. I have a square. On top of a square, I hover the mouse over, and I'm greeted with a second square. And those CSS properties are right here. On my mouse hover, it translates that one into a second one. And then we have a smooth transition back and forth however many times we want. Now, this is useful for when we are on a website where, let's say we want a hint or something for a question. We can hover our mouse over an element to reveal the hint behind it and then cover it back up, so to speak, so that we can continue working with the problem. That's just one example of how we can use this translate transition here. My rotation transition, let's go ahead and take a look at that. Now, how does it kind of go back and forth like that in the middle of its transition? So this is what I want to focus mostly on. So I have my transition timing function right here, and these are my properties right here. So these numbers here, these are basically intervals, or they specify like a curve, and it's I'd have to go more in depth and show you kind of like a graph or something, but these are my properties that I have specified. This is where we see that this kind of flutters, it goes back, and then it finishes the transition, so to speak, and then goes back to the end, and then it flutters again. So that was kind of a neat function that I added into the, because I could simply just get rid of all of this right here, and the transition would go around, and it would take 3 seconds right here to complete, and then it would go back for the duration of 3 seconds. So we can actually go ahead and change this. There's a lot of other properties that we can add into this transition timing function. So let's go ahead and just type in linear. So linear means that now my transition takes place from start to finish at equal speeds. Goes all the way to the end at an equal speed, goes back to the beginning at an equal speed. Now we could also type in ease in or ease out, and you can kind of experiment with these on your own. But what this here is ease in, we kind of have a slow animation when we very first start the transition. And if I take my mouse over, it kind of starts slowly and it picks up a little bit more speed. So that's another real world, well, that's a more practical example of how we can use our transitions and specify the timing and such. So ease in and out. So when it starts, it kind of eases into the transition. It takes it slowly at first. So when you're driving a car, you don't slam on the gas. I guess you could depending on where you are, but you gradually build up. So the ease in and out. Once I hover the mouse over, it kind of eases back before it picks up a little bit more speed. So that is it. That concludes this short little example of a resubmission of CSS3 transitions. Thank you.